The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood, a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So the Greek phrasing for something like a huge mountain is a bit uncertain. Some ancient manuscripts say something like a great star instead, and turned into blood becomes sometimes turned red. So we could safely say blood red. Interpreters have wrestled for centuries with this. They still do. It's still a subject of much debate. Let's look at, this is from some discussions I had with somebody over some of this, and here's some notes. But I'd point out that then literal, natural reading of this, and mostly futurist interpreters look for a real-world catastrophe that could match the description. So one approach is a volcanic eruption or a caldera collapse. A caldera, as you know, is not just a volcano that's on the Hawaiian Islands or in the Philippines. A caldera is something more like on the scale that could cover multiple states if it blew, like Yosemite or even larger Yellowstone. So a massive caldera, and they say that there is at least one under the ocean that is that way as well. So that kind of activity, a great mountain all ablaze, fits in erupting volcano language very well. The thrown into the sea part could describe a flank collapse, pyroclastic flow, or the sudden disappearance of a volcanic island into the sea, creating a caldera. There is a historical precedence for this. In 1883, the Krakatoa eruption, much of the volcanic island literally collapsed into the sea after massive explosions. So enormous tsunamis up to 40 meters or 130 feet in places destroyed or damaged dozens of ships in the Sunda Strait. So that's just very localized, but it's precedence for this kind of thing. So the surrounding sea was filled with floating pumice. So that would destroy ships. It'd jam up their engines and make them not any longer functional. They'd have to be rebuilt. And it was discolored for long distances. Marine life was devastated locally. So it wasn't a third of the sea turning into blood, but the scale of destruction to shipping and sea life in the affected region was catastrophic. Now, the other possibility of asteroid or cometary impact thrown into the sea, it sounds like something falling from the sky, a mountain-sized objects, even a few hundred meters to a couple of miles across, hitting the sea would generate a colossal tsunami, vaporize large amounts of water, send shock waves and ejecta across a wide area. Ships in the path could be destroyed by the waves. Marine ecosystems would be hammered. So some futurist writers would explicitly connect this trumpet to an NEO, a near-Earth object type of an impact. Possibly. So the blood part, this is the part that matches red tides, harmful algal blooms most closely. These can turn large stretches of water reddish brown, kill massive numbers of fish and other sea life through toxins or oxygen depletion. And they've been observed in many places, including coastal China, parts of the Middle East, and Red Sea region. Even in the Antarctic, they have what they call watermelon snow from algae, though that's on the ice, but it'll flow down into the sea. However, red tides don't normally destroy ships. The ship destruction in the verse seems to require a separate physical mechanism, most naturally explained by giant waves, tsunamis, rather than the geological bloom itself. So, a single event could combine elements. Volcanic eruption or impact stirs up nutrients, sediments, iron, triggering a massive red tide afterwards, while the initial blast and waves destroy ships. Or you could even have a massive cometary object hit something volcanic or bust something open, and you've got a real cataclysm going on there. The 1/3 ships of the ship's detail is can be difficult for people to understand. It's just a little bit trickier. The world's merchant fleet is spread across all oceans, of course. So no single region has literally 1/3 of all ships at any given moment. However, in the Middle East, especially the Strait of Hormuz, which, as you know, is quite problematic at the moment with the war with Iran going on, and that's just a constant regional type of a problem over there. Plus the Suez Canal, Bab el-Mandeb, and surrounding waters. It's one of the highest concentration of shipping corridors on Earth because of oil tankers, container routes. So roughly 20% of global oil trade passes through Hormuz alone at any given day, up until recently, of course. A truly massive tsunami or impact-generated wave centered in or near that region could destroy or disable a very large percentage of the ships that happen to be in those choke points at that time, especially when we consider things like if it's during a time of war, which we're looking at. We're looking at the trumpet judgments. We've already had a big war go on with the Gog-Magog thing, which in my opinion would be right at the beginning. It would be the things that we see happening as a result of that. In the sealed judgments, so trumpets is later than that, but we are approaching, with the trumpets, we are approaching mid-trib. The Antichrist is in full swing with his shenanigans. He could be moving by the trumpets, perhaps positioning navies and so forth and resources through ship lines into the region, because remember, the ultimate goal is going to be to attack Jerusalem, attack Israel. So there could be massive amounts of regional positioning out there, and then the Lord sends something in to take all that out. So that's a possibility. Who knows? The third language in Revelation is consistent across the trumpet judgments and other functions, more like significant, but not the total proportion, than a precise global statistic. But I would push back on that point in the sense that there isn't a lot of room in Revelation for vague generalities as far as numbers go. They're very precise, very precise. Let me give you some examples, just as a quick example. And this is some that notes jotted down here. Highly specific numbers like the 144,000 and the 12,000 from each of 12 tribes, or the 6 times repeated 1,000 years in one chapter alone, Revelation chapter 20, which in the Greek, when you do that and you repeat a word a couple times, like verily, verily, I say to you, meaning truly, truly, I really mean this, but you state it 3 times or more, and it really, really, really is true and factual, and the number is that significant. But there's also 42 months is mentioned for, depending on which passage you're reading, for half of the tribulation period, which is 6 months out of, or rather 3.5 years, 3 years and 6 months out of a 7-year period. 1,260 days is 3.5 years. And also the times and half a time from Daniel. All these things point to very specifically 3.5 year segments, mostly in discussion about the second half, which is the most catastrophic. 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls, 3 woes, some very specific numbers mentioned, as I say, in the book of Revelation. So that would mitigate against kind of generally a generality or vague third meanings not supposed to be taken literally. The supernatural, we cannot dismiss the supernatural. God is involved. It's God's judgment, God's wrath. He's very specifically letting people know that he is God and he's judging the world, shaking the world up so that there will be repentance and also so that there will be judgment. The sea could literally turn into blood if God wanted to. Okay. He can wipe out a third any way he wants to. So whatever happens, or likely a combination of these things, because God by supernaturalism created the world. God by supernaturalism made plagues happen, and actual flies and actual locusts and actual fire and fiery hail from heaven. He does things supernaturally. He takes care of the natural through his own supernatural means of making things happen. So what we see going on here is it could be a combination of these things. Definitely God is acting here. Definitely God gave instructions to and gave trumpets to angels to activate very specific things. And the trumpets are not just something to blow on and become part of a samba band ensemble. God has assembled these angels and the trumpets to do the things that trumpets did in the Old Testament. And that was to call forth attention to specific things, to get people's attention. So the trumpet blast are to bring attention that God is doing something. Hey, look up, something is coming that you're not aware of. And it's not a surprise, and it's not accidental, it's not incidental. It is very specific, very particular, and the sound of what a trumpet coming from the heavens would sound like overhead would have to be very disturbing. People get disturbed now by hearing almost like a shofar type of sound. They're trying to figure out where they come from in different places in the world. Sometimes they hear this and they come outside and they're out there with their cell phones at night going, what is this? Do you guys hear this? And you can't tell exactly where it comes from. It's probably something man-made, though we can't be for sure because we haven't nailed it down yet. Is God doing something like with the birth pangs where he's getting the world prepared for the world is not quite what you think it is, and the world is not going to stay normal. Some things are happening and he's trying to get people's attention, but then we have the real trumpet blasts happen in the tribulation week. It's difficult to tell. These are all things I want to put into the mix for you to pray about and think about. That God is doing something very specific here with the trumpets. He's calling attention to himself, to his judgments. He's letting people know that, hey, something's coming, and when you see it, recognize that it's from me. And it's not going to be good stuff. Therefore, I'm not calling you to attention. This is not the dinner bell to call you to a feast. This is judgment. And this is what we have to remember, that what God is doing during the tribulation week, during the 7 trumpets, during all of these judgments. So it says in here too that in verse 9 that a third of the living creatures in the sea died. And that would fit with what's being described here, if there's something poisonous or gaseous or whatever else that goes on, even if it's the bloom that happens, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So we've got to remember that these sea creatures also die. And then in verse 10, the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from the heavens. Now, this is very specific, not just like a mountain. So that's why when I read verse 8 about something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, I'm thinking something blew its top. A massive caldera or volcano blew its top, and poisonous something or other happened. Because if God wants to say that something fell down from the heavens and fell into the sea, he'll say that, and he does in verse 10. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven. And it's not probably a literal star like the sun, but like a falling star, or what we call it, a comet, because it's a bright white streak that falls in. It's the same thing we call it, a falling star, although not in scientific terms, but just letting them know this is a falling star. Blazing like a torch, and it fell, and a third of the rivers on the springs of water. And the name of the star was wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood. In other words, wormwood is a name for a root that has a liquid inside of it, a type of something organic that can be poisonous, and people can die from it. Many people died from the water because it had been made bitter, wormwood bitter. So now, how does a falling star do that? Really, a falling star normally doesn't do that, but how would it fall in rivers and fall in the sea and fall in different places of water? Well, if you have a comet, as you're aware, a comet isn't just one solid rock that comes streaking by the Earth, over the Earth. A comet is usually has a core center mass, massive object, but lots of smaller objects trailing behind it and venting off gases and things. Especially the closer it gets to the sun or star, it warms up, and these things vent out and gas out. So also, as we've seen from so many that have come by in recent years, the comet will streak by, will pass the Earth, keep going, and then it'll go out toward the sun, and it'll circle around the sun, and the sun will slingshot it back. And so it slingshots back, and it might pass the Earth again, close enough or even closer than it had before, and still more debris would fall off. So it's leaving a trail behind it, and it could leave a trail both ways. So that's how, and it would be, if it does go by twice, it would be the second pass, of course, where it falls, because wormwood falling star, it comes in and hits the Earth, or at least a major chunk of whatever comet it is, a secondary something or other massive that they call wormwood falls in and poisons everything, and it sheds off a lot of debris all over and poisons rivers and so forth. And so many people die because it poisons the water. And then by then we've just finished the first three, and we'll stop with that. But comets are interspersed with liquids, and that's what I want to point out with wormwood. And if God wanted to say it was a falling star, when he talks about something like a mountain falling, he would say, that it was a falling star, and then there was a second falling star. But he doesn't say that. He says something like a great mountain burning with fire. That sounds volcanic to me. I'd like your opinions. Let me know down below what you think it is. But we see two different types of language here and two different types of effects, and God is just letting people know he's shaking up the earth, that he's come to judge, and now is the time for repentance. And so next time we'll pick up at verse 12, with the fourth angel blew his trumpet, and what that means, and all the effects of that. So let me know your thoughts on this. God is, by this point, very angry. This is why it's wrath. And so we have to warn people. We have to let them know, and so that they can avoid all of this. entirely. Because if you're found still living by the time this kicks off, you're stuck here and you're going through it, because the rapture will have already happened before all of these events. So it will be a dark time in the earth's history with a glorious outcome. And that's the way I choose to look at it. Again, as I point out, we know all the reasons why God would do this, and some people will kind of have an attitude of, well, my God is a God of love and he wouldn't do that. Well, your God is who? Hotoi or somebody? Your God is not the God of the Bible. Your God is not a just and righteous and a holy God. Yours is a God who tolerates all this evil and stuff. A righteous and just God must judge all the evil that we're seeing in the world, we have seen in the world for thousands of years, and it's only getting worse. And that's a just and righteous God. But this particular God, the God of the Bible, is also merciful in that he's willing to forgive creatures such as we, instead of just squishing us outright, taking us out in the flood and leaving it and starting all over. Instead, he provides a remnant to go through and populate, and gives us time and time again to redeem ourselves, and we never do. So Christ has to come and he redeems us on the cross. And he demonstrates that he's the Redeemer by raising from the dead. So he's victorious over sin and death. And then that's God's grace, that not only will he forgive us of all these things so that we don't go to the lake of fire, we don't go into eternal hell, his grace brings us into his eternal presence with him forever and ever, to enjoy all of creation in whatever realm with him. So that's God's grace and his mercy. The God of the Bible is awesome. And if you don't know him, you need to read, beginning with one of John's earlier books, as I keep saying, the Gospel of John, and learn of him. This is the God of the Bible. This is the God who is being described here, taking back creation and setting things right. And there's a big mess to clean up. And it requires burning off all the dross for the fine, refined silver and gold to come out of it. Until next time.
PaDaddy.